All right, now we're going to do tutorial number 4. This is actually my second take on this because I boogered up the first one so badly. So know you're not alone when things go wrong. So let's talk about what we're going to do. We're going to make some bolts. So these 8 bolts here, we need to make one of them. And notice that it's basically we're going to have an extrusion in 2 directions. One for the length and one for the head. And since I already did this, I'm just going to go here and show you what I did. So my bolt diameter, that would be something about knowing what kind of bolt I had. The bolt head thickness, I just decided that was going to be 4 millimeters. And then the bolt length, as you can see here, if you look up in this, you can see I added the brace thickness and the base plate thickness. Why did I do that? Well, if we look at this guy and we see how long those bolts are, we want it to be that length plus that length. And so that's one of the great things about parameters is I've got those numbers already, and I can just add them on. And if I change my brace thickness later, it'll adapt and it'll change my bolt length. So let's save that guy and overwrite as necessary, and we'll make our new part. I can be a little less impatient. Standard metric part. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import those values that I just created, link them up to my parameter sheet, check that my bolt length and my bolt head thickness are on there, and then we're going to do some 3D modeling. So I sketch, make my X-plane, and then go from there. So here we go. This is going to be my inner circle. And I put it there, and then I dimension this. That is my bolt diam. Now, this is what the new thing for this video is we're going to learn how to use a construction line. So I'm going to go up here and click this construction line icon. And what this is going to do is that any line I make when that's blue is going to be a dotted line that isn't a real line. In other words, it's not something that's actually being made in this. It's not going to be a part of the part. It's a guide that I can use to build other parts. I'm going to switch that off because I don't need it anymore. And I can manipulate a construction line in the same way I can manipulate any other line. So I can constrain it there. And like any other line, it needs dimensions. And so I'm going to give it a dimension. I'm going to make this, this would be the outside of my hexagon. I'm going to make it twice as big as my bolt diameter. So times 2. And there we go. And the reason I'm doing this is there's no hexagon tool. There's nothing that tells me how to do that. So I have to think about how am I going to make a hexagon without, and make it shapely, make it have 6 even sides and all the right angles. And it, you could go through and manually dimension all that, but that's kind of a pain in the neck. So here I am. I'm going to make a very awkward hexagon here, but I'm going to kind of keep it the general shape of my circle. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you start changing dimensions, sometimes your shapes will do really weird stuff. So I've got my awkward hexagon here, not a very pretty bolt head. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of the points on my construction line circle. There we go. Now, not quite a beautiful hexagon yet, but we're getting there. So I'm going to make the sides the same length. So I've got an equal constraint here, and I'm going to click those two lines to make them the same length. And then I'm going to make those two lines the same length. And you can see my hexagon sort of slowly coming to life here. And there it is. Now I've got a perfect hexagon because I've got 6 equal sides. And I still need one dimension. So what's the one dimension? Well, I could turn this whole thing. And so I need to define, even though it doesn't really matter for me, I need to define in space what direction, what the angle of these lines are. So I'm just going to pick one and make it horizontal like that. And now I am fully dimensioned and I'm good to go. Now that construction line, I can't like extrude from that. And it just stays there as a way to keep my the real lines where I want them to be. So we go to finish here. I'm going to save my part because I always want to do that before I get too far into it. And I'm going to call it bolt. And I save it there. Now I'm going to extrude in 2 different directions. So I need to make 2 separate extrusions. One for the bolt length, and that's going to be that guy. So that's my 20. Now notice that this disappeared. Where did it go? It's not over here anywhere. It's been subsumed by my extrusion. So what I need to do is I need to get this outside of it so I can make another extrusion. So you do what's called sharing your sketch. So I'm right-clicking my sketch and I click share, and now you can see it appears up here as well. So now I can reuse that sketch. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to extrude both of those. But this time I want it to go the other direction. So now these little guys come in handy. So I'm going to make it go that way. And I don't want it as long as the bolt length. I want it bolt head T, like so. And we are good to go. And there is my bolt. Now you see how that sketch is still visible? If that bugs you, and it will when you start making an assembly, you can just right click and change your visibility. And that takes care of that. And then add a color to that and you'll be all done. So that's by going to Tools and Appearance. And that is tutorial number 4.